The series that we're working on today, and this is week 4, is this epic fail series where we're learning how not to suck by looking at people who suck far worse than we do, and then learning to not make the same mistakes that they would make. We're following a guy named King Solomon. And King Solomon was a king in the Old Testament in the Bible, extremely successful, that became an epic fail by the end of his life. And so here's basically what he did. King Solomon, in this book called Ecclesiastes, chronicles this social experiment that he undertakes using the entire nation, using his entire fortune, his fame, everything he's earned up to that point to indulge himself. Pretty much trying to find the meaning of life. He figures, look, nobody in human history has been in a better shot within bow shot range of finding the meaning of life than me, because I got all the money I want, all the power I want, I can do whatever I want, I'm the king, so I'm going to find the meaning of life. And by the end of this social experiment, he basically comes to the conclusion that his entire life, in fact, all of existence, he says, is meaningless. Now, the interesting thing about this book, Ecclesiastes, is that it's not actually a book of wisdom, it's actually a book of folly, where we get to watch a guy tank his life and pick up the pieces by doing an autopsy of his failure. And so it's not that Solomon's life was meaningless, it's that his approach to life was meaningless. So I just want you to hear this as we go through the series. Even if it feels like it, your life isn't meaningless, it could be that your approach to life is meaningless. Or there's an ingredient of what makes a life meaningful that maybe you're overlooking. For example, the first week or the second week we talked about the fact that even though he's a king in Israel, in a Bible story, he doesn't really explore what it means to have a personal relationship with God. How could you overlook that? His dad was a guy named David who had an amazing relationship with God. He had Solomon, who was like, to God, take him or leave him. That was kind of his approach to God, and then he wondered why his life felt meaningless. Well, week 3, we talked about community, the fact that here's a guy that is king, and he could even buy friends if he needed to, and he didn't. He's like walking through life, and he doesn't think to explore that maybe meaningful friendships and relationships could have something to do with meaning. So he kind of pokes at it, never really goes there. This one today is the most astounding oversight in all of Solomon's life, especially from what we know about God and what we know in the Bible. Did you know that he never once even thinks, there's not a word, there's not a verse that I could find. If you can find one, go ahead. In the book of Ecclesiastes, be my guest, where he ever even entertains the idea that perhaps he should give some of his fortune away. Philanthropy never crosses his mind. Richest guy in all of history. Doesn't think. There's no, you know what, maybe I ought to spend, Saturday mornings at the soup kitchen, helping people that are less fortunate than me. He never throws Taco Tuesday on the house. Come on down, I'll feed you. He never does anything for anyone else. It's all about him, and then he somehow expects it to mean something at the end of the day. It's crazy. It's insane. In fact, you know what's even more insane? Is that I forgot my Bible today. So, does someone have, because I know what's in my bag there? In my bag. No, it's not in there. Someone, can I borrow? Thank you, Brad. Pastor forgot his Bible. It's on video. Okay. Ecclesiastes. Oh, look at that. I just turned to the right book, though. There's that gaming quality. Woo! Thank you, Jesus, for that. Okay. So, here's this experiment. This is how he describes. I'm going to read it with emphasis so that you can get my point today. I know, it is a horrific story. Horrific story. So watch this. He says, I thought in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure to find out what's good. But that also proved to be meaningless. Laughter, I said, is foolish. And what does pleasure accomplish? By the way, this is where I am. I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly, my mind still guiding me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was worthwhile for men to do under heaven during the few days of their lives. Okay, you ready for this? I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself. and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. I bought male and female slaves and other slaves who were born in my house. I also owned more herds and flocks than anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed gold and silver for myself, and the treasure of kings and provinces. I acquired men and women singers in the harem as well, the delights of a heart of man. I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me, and all this wisdom stayed with me. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired, and I refused my heart no pleasure. Dude, that is not okay. If you've been kind of like, I don't know, Brad, this is supposed to be a book of wisdom, read it, listen to it. When you hear it read like that, does this sound like wisdom? This sounds like folly. This is a guy who is richer than you and I will ever be, put together, times 450. And he's not giving anything away, nothing. This is the guy, really, who throughout this book could easily find himself in Finding Nemo. Have you seen Finding Nemo? The seagulls, mine. And he just keeps going, mine. Just, it's like, if you want something, go after it, go get it, period. This is his philosophy of life. Doesn't matter anyways, you can steamroll people because everyone is up to them, kind of what they do with their life, It's just like a toddler. It's like a toddler that he's got way too many toys, and then a little boy comes over to play, and he's like, mine. He's like, everything belongs to me. Mine. This is not okay at all. Share your toys. No, I'm not going to share my toys. So bad. Now, you and I, though, would never do this, right? You and I would never hoard our stuff. I mean, we can look straight down our noses at Ecclesiastes. I, for one, would never, ever hoard all of Shauna's baking for myself. Ever. Never done it, never will. Especially at Christmas time when she makes those Christmas trays with 24 different kinds of cookies. And she makes several dozen of each, and our freezer fills up. There's a whole fridge freezer racked with cookies and glory waiting for me to eat. And then she starts putting these platters together for people who order them and for the neighbors. And then I watch these cookies, they go down. If you have, like a time lapse, all the containers are getting emptier, and Brad's going, what's going to happen? And then every single year, she's like, there's thousands of cookies, literally thousands of cookies. But then these stupid people keep ordering cookies. And then every single year, there's a point in which I go, are you sure we're going to have enough for Christmas Eve? We need for just a tradition. We have to Christmas Eve, and there's Christmas morning, and there's a family gathering. We've got to have enough. And then I'm always, in particular, keeping an eye on the lemon bars, because the lemon bars are gold, baby. If you order a platter and it doesn't come with a lemon bar, oops, that might be me. I might have been, I would never do this, ever. You and I both know that we have things that we hoard. We have things that we give, because if we don't give something, we feel guilty. Right? All of us, we have something somewhere that we're generous. And here, I'm just going to poke something, because I do the same thing. We use little controlled bits of generosity, very strategic generosity, that will keep everything else off the table so that I can give that. It's kind of like, I hate to poke this because we've got one in our fridge too, but for $34 a month, you don't have to feel guilty anymore, because you can support a sponsor child. And then people can come over and go, look, we're generous. Look, there he is. Can't pronounce his name, but he's being fed because of me. And I'm not saying, hey, look, you get 40 sponsored children. If it's coming out of a good place, great. But you know what I mean. There are things, we treat giving like this. It's like, there, I did it. Now I'm good. Now everything else is for me. You can pull the chips back across the table and hoard them because we want to hold on to everything we've got. Now, of course, Jesus calls us to a different way of life. Now, I think it was week 2, I contrasted, like I mentioned, King Solomon's shallow spirituality with David's rich spirituality. Today, I want to contrast Solomon's view on giving and wealth and generosity, which was non-existent, with another group of people that were like knocking it out of the park. This is a group of people living in the New Testament. So the Apostle Paul and his buddies, these evangelists in the first century, they're going over the then Roman world. They're traveling all over the place in Asia Minor, planting churches. People are coming to life in Christ. And one of these groups of people is living in a place called Macedonia. I don't even know where that was then. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I've never been there. Some of you are going, dude, look at a map. But then there's these people living in Corinth. I don't know where that is either. But I know that they're out there somewhere and they're not the same place because they have different names. So he's writing to this group called the Corinthians about the Macedonians. So what's happening is he's on this missionary mission with his life, and other missionaries are going all over the place, and they need to bankroll the thing, right? This is like this thing. So he's taking up offerings wherever he's going, kind of like we don't take it about an offering here, but people are giving towards this every single week so that we can reach more and more people. This is what's going on. So in the light of that, he writes this letter to these believers. Look at this. This is crazy. He says, brothers and sisters in Corinth, we want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches in the midst of a very severe trial. So they're going through a really hard time. Look at this. This makes no sense if God isn't real. Look at this. Their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in extreme generosity. Their poverty squeezed out generosity. What is wrong with these people? This is not normal. This is completely different. These people are on a different planet than Solomon was living in. Look at this. For I testify that they gave as much as they were able and even beyond their ability. How do you give more than you can? We're going to get to that. And even beyond their ability, entirely on their own, they urgently pleaded with us for the privilege of sharing in the service to the Lord's people. This is not exactly the televangelist approach, where it's my job to plead with you. They're pleading with Paul. We want in. We want in. Is there any way, how can we give? Where do we give? How do we give? We want to see more and more and more people reached for the gospel. This is crazy. I love this. Now, what I want to do is I want to use this story, because if you're anything like me, you read this and you go, oh man, right in the feels. Totally got me. It's like, honey, where's the checkbook? Let's write a check right now. I don't care to who, not to Donald Trump, but we'll write a check. Or to Hillary, but we're going to write a check and we're going to make this happen. And yes, it's supposed to produce something in you. But what I want to do first, before we jump into action, is I want to try to peel back this page and these words and get underneath how on earth did these people get this way. That's far more important than going, oh, so all I got to do, so you made up another rule, and then if I just do this rule, I can check it off my list, there I gave, or I became more generous. No, that would miss the entire point. What I want to get at is, why are these people so generous? And it's not just about money, by the way. It's about generosity. That's why I love that word better than giving. So, what we're going to look at is these people were gripped with a kingdom mindset that sent them on a kingdom path. So there's 6 points, 3 in the mindset, 3 on the path, that I want to cover really quickly today. So these were new believers, brand new believers in Jesus, which means they had experienced what John is going to describe here. John is one of the other 12 disciples, like the original posse of Jesus. He was one of those guys. And this is how he's summarizing to a group of people he's writing to what Jesus has done for them. Look at this. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. Since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. In this world, we're like Jesus. In this world, we're like Jesus. That's good news, by the way. You should be like, hey, that's really profound, Brad. Okay, I didn't even write this. I can't even take the credit for it. Look at this. There's no fear in love. In this world that we are like Jesus, there is no fear in love. Jesus lived without fear. And because he lived without fear, he could love without fear. Look at this. Perfect love drives out fear because fear has to do with punishment or judgment or whatever you want to attach to it, the negative consequence. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. We love because he first loved us. In other words, like I have on the screen there, the first thing that we need to do is we need to receive. Giving starts with receiving. And it's not selfish to receive. It's like you need to receive the love of Jesus. Look, if you just get out your checkbook and write a check and you start giving without your heart being transformed, it's actually coming out of guilt. It's coming out of shame. It's coming out of duty. It's coming out of social pressure. That's not what God is looking for. He's looking for people who've been so transformed by God's love that they've been set free from fear, set free from guilt, set free from themselves, and they're like, okay, what's next? Right? This is what happened to these believers. These are people who have been set free. They're like, what can we do? We're in. We're in. This is so awesome. So what I'm saying is this. Generosity flows from a heart set free. Now, I know that people who don't know Jesus can be generous too. Absolutely. And this principle is still true. To the degree that we are bound by fear and we are giving our lives to ourselves, our heart is bound up in protecting what we have and trying to keep other people from taking it and accumulating more and more and more. But a heart set free lives open-handedly because what else would I need? I'm free. I'm good. So that's the first principle of this kingdom mindset. Receiving the love of God. We love, or we could say we give because he gave first. And as we receive from him, that fear evaporates, and then we're not afraid of letting go of what we're trying to give. All right, so then you're going to say, okay, so then I get out the checkbook? No. Well, first let's talk about number 2. Look at this. This is how Paul describes these Macedonian believers. He would say our first gift isn't to people, it's to God. Our first gift is back to God. So the first thing we do is receive his love. And the next thing we do is we give it back to him. So look, they gave themselves first of all to the Lord, and then by the will of God also to us. Here's what happens. Again, this doesn't work unless God is real. So here it is. I give myself to this God who loves me and loves the world so much that he would die for us. Okay? And then I give him, what that means is I've given him my stuff. I've given him my time. I've given him my energy. I've given him my money. And then I say, how would you like to spend me? I'm yours. It's all yours. So I'm giving myself to you. You are a far better manager of my life than I could ever be. So I'm giving myself to you. And it's up to you to give me to the world as the world needs me. Give my stuff. Give all of that stuff. And why would I do that? Because I'm free. I've been set free. I'm yours. I'm all yours. What else would I do? What else would I do? What God does is he gives us to the world. That's his mission. That's always been his mission. I have to tell you this. In the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I've learned there's somebody in our community, our manifest community here, who has given their kidney to someone else. And I'm going to butcher the story, I'm sure of it. This is what I understood. What I understood was, through a mutual friend, this gentleman learned that this guy needed a kidney, that there was some kind of medical crisis, and this believer in Jesus here said, well, he can have mine. And when the two met, the donor met, it's like, what are you doing? How could you possibly do this? And his response was something like what I've been talking about. Jesus has given himself to me. I've been set free. Nothing I have is my own. And I already got one. It's very nice. I've got 2, so you can have the other one. I'll be good. Right? But you know what? That is hardcore. That would make Solomon's eyes cross. He couldn't even comprehend that kind of thing. And that is amazing. That is the love of Jesus in action. Like, hey, most of us would say, oh, I would do that for my son or my daughter. But for someone you've never met, that's what happens when Jesus sets you free. Now, third piece of this kingdom mindset is actually a heart check. So this is what Paul says. He said, each of you should give what you've decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion. Do you hear that? You are being released from giving, from duty and guilt and compulsion. What he wants is giving that comes from joy. So when you get to the point of giving, and again, this could be giving your Saturday to help somebody move. It could be giving to the work of the ministry here. It could be giving baking to the family next door. It could be buying a rose for a widow on the eve of her husband's death and anniversary. It could be all kinds of things. But at that moment of giving, if it's compulsion or it's guilt or it's pressure or it's not a joy, there's something wrong. It means we've lost sight of God's love, or we've pulled our life back out of his hands. So then we go back to number one. Jesus, you have died for me. You gave everything for me. I deserve hell and judgment, but you released me from that. You forgave me. So I'm giving myself back to you. What else could I do with my life? And I'm so sorry that inside of me there's still fear holding on to this stuff. Still selfishness. Still something of myself trying to preserve my own life outside of generosity. It's a great heart check. So in other words, when it comes to giving, it's not just about doing it, it's about liking it. He wants you to enjoy it. It's fun. In fact, if it's not fun to give stuff away and make someone's day, again, there's something wrong. Okay. That's the foundation. The foundation is what Jesus has done for us and how we respond to Jesus. Okay? So that's the foundation. Now I want to talk to you about the path. Because now what do I do? And again, Paul lays out three things. Really cool. So I'm going to treat it like number 4. He says, now you get your checkbook out, or you volunteer your Saturday, or you do whatever, bring cookies next door. Okay. And he says, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, not according to what one does not have. Again, really simple. It starts with what you have. But what this means is generosity is always now. It's never when. Generosity is always now, never when. I went for coffee with a guy a couple of months ago who wanted to make millions and millions of dollars, wanted to become uber rich. And he says, when I become rich, I'm going to give so much money away. And in my heart, I thought, no, you won't. I was at a concert years ago, probably 25 years ago by now. Rich Mullins, anyone know that name? I was at a Rich Mullins concert. He's gone to be with Jesus since. But he talked about this principle. See, people, he says, they come to me all the time. They go, Rich, what would you do with $1 million? What would you do with $1 million? He goes, that's a stupid question. You do with $1 million what you do with the dime in your pocket. If you're not being generous with the dime in your pocket, you will not be magically transformed into a benevolent person when you become rich. You are who you are unless Jesus changes that. And money, I guarantee you, is not going to change you for the better without the gospel, the good news of Jesus changing your heart first. I hate to break it to you. You're not going to magically become generous when you become rich. It starts now. That's so powerful. Here's another one. This to me is so cool. Because this is so contrary to the way most of us think. So first thing is, start with what you have. Look, if you don't know what to give, you don't know how to give, you got $1, give $1. Start there. That's literally, there's no excuse to not give. And again, if you're going, yeah, but, go back to the cross, look what Jesus has done for me, give yourself to Jesus, and if that has completely taken hold in your life, I dare you not to be generous. Right? It's going to come from joy. Okay, so here's the next one. Look at this. God actually wants us to get better at giving over time. This series about we're learning to suck less. He knows we suck at giving. We're terribly selfish people. It's like, start with what you have, and then get better at it over time. See that you excel in this grace of giving. Has it ever occurred to you that you're supposed to get better at giving over time? So that could include giving more and more and more of yourself to people. But it also includes getting better and more strategic at giving so that it produces a better and better result over time. For most of us, giving is a set it and forget it thing. Right? Is there a way that I can do a recurring gift there online? There we go. Bang. Done. There. I've given. I'm generous. And move on. And I live the rest of my life for myself. Set it and forget it. And it doesn't even occur to me. But God is actually going to hold me accountable to getting better at giving over time. He wants me to knock it out of the park. Not so that I can get your applause, but so that He can go, well done. That is so like Jesus, who gave everything and perfectly well, so well that everybody who gives themselves in faith to Him is set free. Wouldn't you love your gifts to set loose chain reactions of giving and restoration in this world? Come on. Can you think of something better to do with your life? I want to get better at it. I need to get better at it. In our first 2-3 years of marriage, I did something really bad. Really bad. You're never going to look at me the same way. Sean and I were in Canadian Tire, and she was looking at the vacuums, and there was a portable vacuum, like it was little dirt devil things, you know? She's like, oh, I would love one of those. Husband of the year goes, noted. And on her birthday, yeah, I did. What was that? Okay, pray for Tori. Never give your wife a vacuum or any other cleaning supplies for her birthday, anniversary, Valentine's Day, President's Day, anything. It's got to be completely random. It's got to be, and it's not a gift. It's like, honey, I found something that I can use around the house. And we can share, but you don't. Okay, so you don't understand what I'm saying. Now, today, I can definitely tell you I'm much better at giving now. Instead of getting furious when I give her something, she just bursts into tears, generally. Tear of joy, I should clarify. Because it's so thoughtful, you know? And her kid's like, Dad did it again, you know? One time, I given Shauna a card. It was Valentine's Day, and every card I've given her for the last, I don't know how many years, she ends up crying. So we're in, this is the last date we ever had on a Valentine's Day. We're in this little restaurant. It's super packed because we're trying to get more people in. And there's this couple sitting right like 2 feet away from us, and it's time to give the cards, and I give Shauna her card. She reads the card, she starts crying. The guy across from me is glaring at me like, what did you say? I don't have to explain to you. So anyways, I'm getting better at giving. Now, here's the last principle, and this one is so exciting because the first 5 are up to us, the last one's up to God. God says, look, you need to receive my love. You need to understand my love in all of its glory and all of its goodness. It will wreck you. It will change you. And you'll want to give yourself back to me, your stuff, your time, all of that. And I'm giving you a heart check. Look, if your giving's not coming from joy, go back to the beginning and receive and all that. Okay, then start with what you have. Start with a penny. Start with $1. I don't care. Share your cookie with the kid at lunch. But share. Okay, do something. And then commit yourself to get better at it over time. And I will meet you there. And I will meet you there. Look at this. God wants to increase our capacity to meet people's needs over time. You will be enriched in every way, Paul says, so that you can be generous on every occasion. He's not just saying you're going to have more money in the account. That's not what he's saying. He's saying you'll be enriched in every way. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. God's like, I have no trouble increasing your capacity to give because it just makes me look better over time. Because you're supposed to be one of my kids. And if you're getting better and better at giving, and I'm increasing your capacity, and you're giving more and more away, and you're living with open hands, it points to the Jesus that you love and shows how loving he must be to transform you into that kind of person. Oh, can you imagine starting with $1, or starting with the pie that you're bringing next door, starting with moving your friends to their new house, giving as a way of life, and God increasing your capacity over time to the point where in any situation you've got something to share? Oh, that would be fun. You know what? I can honestly say we're getting there as a family. Like, it feels like we've got more capacity growing, and I love it. It's so much fun, so much fun. And I love being friends with other people who are committed to this path, who are growing in capacity, because together, right, then we can do some amazing stuff. And actually, this is a huge part of what we're doing here. You know, sometimes we talk about giving as though it's just one of those things, again, that Christians are supposed to do, check, done. No, it's the thing. Like, for God so loved that he gave. He's making us givers. That's what he's turning us into. You miss this, you've missed the boat. Again, it's not about money. It's about generosity coming out in all kinds of different ways. That's what it's about. So again, I just want to review. If you receive God's love personally, let it set you free. Give yourself back to him. Check your heart. Make sure your giving is coming from joy. Start with what you have. Commit to becoming better and better at giving as you grow in this grace of giving. God will increase your capacity to meet people's needs over time. You know what? This is actually the part of Solomon's life that he sucked the most. Because, you know, pardon the pun, but if you give your life to feeding your own needs and your own ego and your own desires and your own pleasures, you are sucking constantly from people instead of giving to people. You never suck more than when you are living for yourself. But when you turn that around, because Jesus has turned you inside out, awesome. I said this before, probably a year ago, but if you don't give your life to a mission bigger than yourself, the mission will become yourself. Who wants to live that life? That's way too small. Way too small. How many of you, just in closing here, as we transition to celebrate the generosity of this Jesus who gave himself for us, how many of you have ever received a gripping, life-changing email from a Nigerian prince? Come on. Hello, dearest one. I am fabulously wealthy, of billions and billions of dollars, but the government is seizing my stuff, and so I need to give you $800,000, and so all you need to do is give me your bank account number, and I will be happy to deposit this into your account. And we're like, oh, I wish that were real, right? We have this moment, but no, I shouldn't. And so we dismiss this. You know, how tragic, don't ever respond to one of those, okay? Don't miss my point. But how tragic would it be if there really was a Nigerian prince and you could have had $800,000? How tragic would that be? What we celebrate at this table is an offer from a God that we cannot see or smell or taste or touch, who says, all of the resources of heaven are at my disposal, and I'm sharing them with you. His offer is way too good to be true. It's paid in full. He wants to give it to you. He wants to put it into your account so you can spend it not on yourself, but on loving the world he came to save, learning to manage his stuff properly. But we live as though we are poor. We live as though we have nothing to offer. When you celebrate this table, Paul would say, you're celebrating someone, Jesus, who was rich, became poor so that we could be rich. Not materially, but spiritually and in every way that matters.